Hello and welcome to the Stafford Connect podcast. I'm Tom Cohen. With the holidays in the rearview mirror, it's time to look forward to the new year. A number of new members will be beginning their terms this month on both the Stafford County School Board and the Board of Supervisors. Among those new members are Maya Guy and Shannon Fingerholz, both of whom will join us on this episode. First, we'll have Shannon Fingerholz. She was elected to the school board from the Hartwood District, where she defeated Stephen Eppel with just over 51% of the vote. She'll be our first guest. Welcome, Shannon. We're really glad to have you here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Well, and some of us, I've been blessed to know you for quite a number of years and work with you. But maybe some of our podcasters and YouTubers, are those potatoes? People on YouTube might not know you as well. So is there anything you'd like to do to introduce yourself to the people?
Well, like you said, I'm Shannon Fingerholz. There's an imaginary T in my name. I know that trips up a lot of folks. So I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm an advocate for our kids and for schools. I'm a horrible speller, and I'm super approachable. So that's just kind of me. I'm a mom. I'm not a politician.
And that I think is part of your charm is not being a politician,
and
part
I'm
of
super awkward.
You're right. Well, no, but you're a real person, and I think people really like real people and the reality of people just being themselves. Local news outlets have sort of hailed the 2025 election results in Stafford with phrases like "changing of the guard" or "leading a blue wave." So, what's your take overall about the election in total? Then we'll go down into your level.
In total, I think it definitely flipped because people have a fear of what's going on federally, right? And federal news here is local news here. Being out at early voting, there was plenty of federal employees who we normally wouldn't have seen during the week coming out to vote. And they had the time, so they were there. So that's a big part of it. For the state level, we tend to see a governor that goes kind of opposite, of the presidential. So that's not a surprise. I know some local stuff was a big surprise, but in the end, I think we need to worry about what we're going to do now. So yes, we had the election. It's done. Thank goodness. And now it's time to get to work. So.
Well, and so particularly in your race, what factors do you think impacted how your race ended up? Because you had Daryl English, who was an incumbent, win, but then you had not his handpicked, I won't say handpicked, but the person who was the Republican endorsed candidate win. It was you.
Yeah, absolutely. So somebody who has way more experience at this than me, who happens to lean more right, said that a Democrat doesn't win in deep red Hartwood without a lot of hard work, right? So I've been in the community for several years now, not even just at Board of Supervisors and school board meetings, but for nonprofits and just doing community work in general. And then I had a lot of really great folks that helped me out. A lot of volunteers, a lot of people putting signs in their yard, a lot of people putting bumper stickers, and all those little bits really, really make that difference. And you have to be approachable. You have to go out and do the work. You got to knock the doors. So I think that's really what made a big difference.
Amazing. You spoke about your community advocacy, and speaking at different meetings, you're famous for a can.
Yeah.
A tin can.
I should have brought my tin can.
Well, that's because it's retired.
It's not retired. We still need to remember to not kick that can. We got a lot of responsibilities, and so we can't keep putting them off. We have to address them.
And for those who weren't avid watchers of board meetings, basically there were decisions that had to be made, and various boards were kicking the can down the road. And so this was sort of like, this is the symbolism of the issues facing us.
Yeah, I actually put a picture of my kid inside. I had little printouts of all the different issues. They were all inside, so I could pull them out and be like, what about this issue? Oh, well, here's a kid. Like, here's our students. Like, this is what we're doing to them. So sometimes symbolism and party favors help.
Yep. Well, and it puts sort of a face to and sort of a realism to the issue. There's always an issue in life of, well, it's way up there in outer space or way up in the stratosphere, but if you make it more relative and more like, oh, wow, this impacts this group or this is a specific issue, it's a really good technique to make it personal.
Yeah, especially local, right? Local is everything that we have to deal with on our daily basis. So
So as you head into the realm of the school board, what issues in general do you sort of think we should be facing immediately and then sort of prepping for the long term?
So immediately is definitely like crack and loop and the data centers, right? That's a huge topic that data centers I knew about kind of going into deciding to run, but crack and loop I wasn't aware of. So even everything that intended to focus on, that's going to change over time and you got to be flexible with it. So we do have, especially in Heartwood folks, those are the people that I'm representing, and we're going to have a lot of change going in, not just with Crack and Loop and the data centers, but we have 2 new schools opening specifically in our Heartwood area that's going to change the redistricting lines. We have a Heartwood rebuild that there's been some talk on the Board of Supervisors where they're like, hey, do we have the funds for this? And it's been fought for a really long time. And it's not just because of growth, but it's because the school itself is failing. So we can't, again, kick that can down the road further just because it's going to be a hard decision. So those are probably the most pressing right now. And AI. And I could go on forever.
And with the Crack and Loop one, that really just sort of raised its head. I'm not quite sure why anybody picked the name of a monster, but for this, I would think that you wouldn't do that. But somebody who does not know marketing apparently who came up with this thing, and we're hoping to do an episode on the loop, on the Kraken, because it has just raised its head up, and it's such a large issue now.
Yeah.
And the data center thing is interesting and how it impacts stuff in the county. And we this month, as we're taping this, the one that is airing in December, we had somebody from Protect Stafford who talked about the data center issue, which is really good. On the new schools, I mean, you're coming in after they've already done the redistricting aspect of it, but that is a major sort of like shifting of almost in high school wise, it's shifting every school.
Absolutely. Same in elementary school. And I know the principals are also worried about kind of the culture that's going to shift in their school. They work really hard. It's a small little community onto itself. And so when you move out a bunch of kids and you move in a bunch of kids, it's going to change. It's going to put things in flux. So we need to be there to support all those families that are having to move.
And on the Heartwood rebuild, since I was one of the ones harping about doing this for a while, I'm going to harp on it now. Some of the issues, I don't know I'll start with the easiest one. The largest one is that it doesn't have water and sewer.
Correct.
And when we redid the comp plan several years ago, we tried to include it in there. But the only way you really could do that is allow more growth, which people don't really want the farmland eaten up by growth. But there are some challenges for a building, not just not having water and sewer, which was problematic for many years when we had droughts or et cetera. But there are other issues with the building itself.
Yeah, absolutely. The building itself needs to be replaced. With heating issues, roof issues, all that. And it was kind of put off doing those repairs because, we're going to get a new one, right? So just do the patches, do the patches. Well, now the chickens are coming to roost and we need that new one.
And one of the interesting things that I learned from Dr. Taylor was I had seen an article that there were billions of dollars still in the U.S. Department of Education as part of COVID to go for air conditioning and heating. And so I said, well, we need some. We have problems with air. You know this from sitting in many a meeting. And he said we can't get that money because we received money for those lovely little air purifiers during COVID. And since we received that, we can't get any of the other money. So it's just sort of sitting there when we have needs. And that was very disconcerting.
Well, and a lot of things too that you'll see grants come out for, they'll say, well, your county's too wealthy. Because they look at our potential tax revenue and all the other things that go into that. And we're like, really, we're not really that wealthy when it comes to revenue for our needs. So, which
is interesting. At Fairfax, and I get conflicting reports. People in Fairfax say yes, and some people here say no. But Fairfax was given permission by the General Assembly many years ago that they could do part of their school budget by a property tax.
Interesting.
But Scott Majowski said no, he doesn't see that that's happening. But people in Fairfax said yes, it is. So I haven't received a definitive word. It's only like 5%, but still 5% is 5%.
Hey, pennies add up.
Right, and it's sort of an interesting dynamic. And they only gave it to Fairfax because it's Fairfax, but they didn't want to give it to everybody else. But it's sort of an interesting thing because cities have different ways to fund. Fairfax has different ways to fund things. To people who aren't familiar with Virginia, but they are from Pennsylvania somewhere where they have school taxes, sort of can't understand why we don't have school taxes. But that's sort of an issue that you all have to deal with. Is you come up with a budget, then you go to the supervisors, and they're looking at all the pieces of the pie and trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We call it budget season, but it's really year round because
Yes.
there's a lot of back and forth.
I know, really. And so budgeting is a large issue that you'll face. And then I guess communication with the parents and et cetera. The different communities have had different things pop up, meaning different counties. And
What do you mean different counties?
different, like Montgomery County, where Dr. Taylor went, has had many issues pop up. But we don't. So far, we haven't had on some paper a large focus on different issues just exploding into the news with curriculum or with this or with that. So I guess as you head into this is. Because you all get to pick what subcommittees you want to be on, and are you looking at more long-term, committees that look at the long-term scope of the school system versus the immediate, or do you have any preferences or thoughts?
So we've already decided our committees with our new folks in the current board and all that stuff. So that will be taken care of during our organizational meeting. I'm happy to go wherever I'm needed. Honestly, as far as long term, that's that whole kick in the can thing, right? It's super important to plan long term, and you kind of brought up communication in there too. So, with communication, if you have that trust built back up between the board of supervisors, between the community, whether it's families that actually attend our schools or it's families that used to attend our schools and may come back at one point in time. Just the community at large, religious organizations, all of that. When you have that communication and that trust, I think it helps avoid some of those blown up issues because it's like, hey, you know what? I'm not here to make friends, right? I'm here to do a job. So you might not like what I have to say, but I want people to know that they can trust what I'm going to say. I'm going to do my research. I'm going to make sure that other folks, try and do their research. So all of that plays then into having those long-term plans as far as not having little bits that try and surprise you. Try and know as much as we can up front.
And so,
does that answer your question,
yes,
by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, that was great. Sorry, allergies. And Dr. Taylor had started, I'll talk two things on this one.
Yeah.
One is on construction and then the other's on programming. So whichever one you want to start on first.
Let's do construction because I just got to tour the new high school and elementary school, and they're awesome, and I'm so excited.
Well, and what is really interesting on that is, I went by to see drive by the new high school because I don't get to go in it. And I saw and this was a couple of months ago, but how far the elementary school had happened. Yeah. And I was reminded at Dr. Taylor's idea of, all right, we do this work on this site, and then we move them over to this new site while these people are working here. And he said the buildings will be done faster. And I was amazed at how quickly, the elementary school in theory is going to be done before the high school is done. I'm not saying it's going to open, but it will be finished far sooner than people had thought it would be because of his methodology, which seems to work really well.
The two high school, the high school and the elementary school are so close together that you can have those teams, bounce back and forth between. It's one big construction site. So.
Yes, and then as far as programs, Dr. Taylor sort of started the ideas of having specialty centers, and now we'll have a specialty center at all the high schools, which is an interesting concept as far as. At Stafford, we have EPIC, and I'm also on the LEAPS at Mountain View, which is one which we've talked about on this program about leadership and education and community involvement and such. And then Brook Point has medical and medicine, and Forge has finance and whatnot, that type of area. And I forget North Stafford. I'll get yelled at for that.
Is it North Stafford going to be the new aeronautics
Yes,
stuff?
you're right.
Yes, which they're, again, super excited about.
Right,
so.
and then the brand new Hartwood High is going to be drama and performing arts and such.
So it's not going to be like a super focused on theater itself as far as acting, because we still have theater in all the other schools and we don't want to take that opportunity away from folks. But there is definitely going to be kind of the behind the scenes things, the sets and all that stuff. It has an amazing theater inside. It's so cool.
Right. And that seems to be an interesting concept that, and the parents would just sort of decide you're going to go to the school, as opposed to the past where somebody at school X would go and take one class and ride in the bus in the middle of the day to this one building and ride on the bus back to the home school. And, you had all these buses not full, but they're large buses going back and forth. And so it's a different concept. And it's just in its infancy, but it seems to be catching on.
I think it is. I think there's a lot of kids that are super excited to be able to explore something other than just your standard classes. I know my daughter, who's in middle school right now, is already excited. She's in 6th grade and she's already excited about high school because of the opportunities that are there. And that's really great to see. It's not for everybody, but that's why you still have your standard stuff. That's why you have your choices. You have your firefighter program. You still have your governor's school and all that, but then you also have these really hands-on experiences where kids can go right into the workforce, which is awesome.
Right. And they have the DE programs, and then we're moving towards an associate degree as you graduate high school, which is another great opportunity for students to sort of move onward, especially with the AI. I wanted to do a program in AI because I was listening to some of my seniors talking about going to school for accounting and economics, and I thought AI is going to wipe that out by the time you're done with college. And so you have all that debt for something you can't get a job that was going to be there for 20 years. And like, I didn't think that. I was like, I know. To me, that's something we need to start thinking about.
It's true.
Is preparing them. And I think these leaps, these different centers, really do that. It's sort of, who would have thought that we're back to, if you really want a job forever, masonry and auto mechanics and construction are going to be the ones that AI can't destroy. It's
true. It's so true. And they are in desperate need of folks in the trades. I've met so many people that have worked on our house or wherever, and they're like, give me somebody that's willing to work and I will train them because they can make good money doing this.
Yep. And when I was on the board, I pushed for, and Tom Nichols at that point, and then Donna Kraus at the county were really good to connect, because I would go on a business, tour of business, and they're like, we really need people to do marble. And I'm like, have we talked to our Stafford High? And they're like, no. And so we've done some of these things where you come up with internships or whatnot in companies, or even with the county government, which is a good opportunity to, again, get them skills and get them in the niche for it, which is nice. So anything else in the future that you're looking at that, I don't mean running for Congress, but
that's a big no.
Really?
That's a no.
But any other future concerns, or I know we have high school 7 that is probably going to be put in the CIP in the next couple of years. Hard to believe, but it's the growth that we have.
The growth that we have and the land need that we have, our requirements for high schools right now take up a lot of land. And as land becomes a premium, that's something we may need to adjust in the future. But it takes a long time to pick the land, to prep the land, to design it. So you're looking at 3 years minimum once you've made that decision. So you have to start thinking about it ahead of time. So I know a new middle school is also kind of on that CIP that's kind of bouncing around. And the CIP, like they always say, is a living document. It may change, especially with fluctuations in the federal workforce. That may get put back just a little bit further. But it definitely would be on the horizon. As far as other things right now, there's so much safety concerns. I think a lot of our infrastructure, just basic infrastructure, our folks that do our maintenance work really, really hard. and they try and balance everything that they can, but we still have a ton of needs for our kids to make sure those schools are safe. So
And
focusing on that.
And it's, for those who are not obsessed with this, like you and
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
CIP is a capital improvement plan, which sort of says where you're going to build things, whether schools or courthouses or fire and rescue training facilities or fire stations or police, sheriff's offices. And when you say safety, it's like the safety of the air, the safety of that. We're not talking, safety as in the safety of the students, but if
Overall.
the overall,
overall.
the quality of the air, if there's a number of, I just alludes to what I said earlier, there's
Yeah.
a number of buildings that the air conditioning or heating units go out, and that ends up being this thing that just pops up, and you're like, wow, we need to have money and put aside for when, and what's it? Feels like zero yesterday,
Oh, so
last
cold.
night, and you could have a heating unit just die at a school, and you need to like replace it immediately.
Yeah.
So you may have it in your CIP or in the immediate things that you need to deal with in a couple of years, and wham, now it's a now. And
Yeah.
So you need to be a bit of flexibility on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can put Band-Aids on for a while, and they do really good about, hey, we can replace this part and it's going to give us a few more years. But a lot of systems are already past their typical normal lifespan. So we had that pipe that broke at Rodney Thompson. Thank goodness it was in the middle of the night, and all these folks show up in the middle of the night to do that repair for those kids. But that could have been really, really devastating. So that ends up being a safety issue as well, not just a plumbing
Yes.
issue.
Cool. I was just wondering, because as we tape this, we've had different things happen in the news. So I wanted to make sure when people hear the word safety, they're not thinking something else, but thinking environment as far as air conditioning, water, stuff like that. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
all right. And so as we sort of wrap this up, we like to end with a story. So do you have anything that's a nice story about Stafford that you'd like to share with us?
I do, actually. It's kind of random. So when I was really little, I grew up in Virginia Beach, and we grew up in a poor family. So our vacations were always to Grandma's house in Pennsylvania. That's where we went for every school holiday. And so we would drive there, and we would stop in Spotsy to go to Denny's and get gas, and then we would drive along Route 17 to avoid DC traffic. So I have been driving along 17 since I was wee little bitty, like second grade, and to now actually live off of 17 and be able to hear and see that road 24/7 and raise my daughter in that road that has changed so drastically over those years. Like I remember when Geico was put up, because all of a sudden there was this building, where it used to be just dark. So Stafford has a weird connection with me for a very long time, and I'm excited to stay here and keep making it better.
Right. Well, I think it's exciting that you're getting on the board. You have a lot of knowledge. So, and I think that's sort of what helped you greatly in the election is that you had a lot of knowledge so that it showed in the candidate forums and it showed when you talk to people, which is always helpful. And I think that you come with a lot of ideas and a lot of energy and that knowledge, whereas there's always a learning curve. I think you're already moved on that learning curve. So there's nuances to get, but I think you'll be a good asset on the board.
Oh, there's still a lot to learn. There's so much that goes. It's a whole city onto itself.
Truly.
Really, millions of miles driven. Millions of meals fed.
Truly.
30,
Yes.
Right? Exactly.
Yep.
32,000 kids. It's a whole city onto itself.
And then what do you do with feeding in the summer? And
Yeah. It's a lot.
And I think that it's interesting, and I tell my students this all the time, that you hear Stafford is the whatever percentage wealthiest county in America and Virginia. However, there's a large population that aren't that.
It's very true.
That are living in motels or living in the hotels on 17 or
Yeah.
610 or whatever, and without the lunch or the breakfast at the school, then they would really be in hardship. So, a delayed opening is okay, but being off from school can often be a hardship on certain families.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. We
So-
have really wealthy folks, and we've got really not wealthy folks, and all those kids are awesome kids with great potential, and we need to take care of them the best we can.
Yep, look at you, always turning everything to a positive way. So,
Not always.
well, so far. Well, thank you, Shannon. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to watching you at the board meetings.
Oh, it's going to be so weird being on the other side of that dais. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, so our next guest is Maya Guy. Maya Guy was elected in November to represent the Aquia District on the Board of Supervisors. Maya won her race by a margin of just 58% to 42% for Hank Scharfenberg. Maya has previously served as vice chair of the school board, where she endorsed our last guest, Shannon Fingerholz, in Shannon's race for the school board. Good evening, Maya. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
And so I know you from working together on our various boards, but why don't you introduce us to you and to our viewers?
Okay, well, I'm Maya Guy, and I am the supervisor-elect for the Aquia District. I'm currently the vice chair on the Stafford County School Board. Let's see, I'm a mom of 6 beautiful, amazing children. I've got a bonus daughter, so I add her in. She's our foster daughter. She's an adult now, but she still comes back for Christmas and money. So,
but not laundry.
No, thank God she doesn't give me her laundry, but I would take it though. I love her. And I'm a mom to 3 cats and a dog. I've been here in Stafford for about almost 20 years, and I love it.
Wow, and that's nice. It's I have a cat and a dog, so I feel you. This was a lot of the news networks have been saying that this is sort of like a changing of the guard or a blue wave election this year, because the Board of Supervisors will have 3 Democrats, 1 independent, and then only 2 Republicans. And so how do you view, and we did this with Shannon sort of on a 500,000 foot level about the election, and then we'll look at yours.
Okay, so in terms of the makeup of the board, that did not enter my mind when I was running. I wasn't running because I wanted to be one of 3 Dems, and I was running because it was time for me to step up for my community. And I saw the leadership that we had here in Stafford, and it honestly, I felt like I could bring something that we haven't had before, and that was. I don't want to say better because I'm not trying to, put anyone down, but like I felt like my brand of leadership was going to be what we needed. So that's why I ran. It wasn't to, have a Black woman board or like whatever I've seen on the news or on social media. It was about me stepping up for Aquia.
Right. What you had been on the school board, so people knew you, and from watching and hanging around and being way too nosy, I had seen you be an advocate for your community and being out there often. And Shannon had said the same thing in her situation, which is why I thought the 2 of you being on the show together is interesting because you're both advocates and you're new to the various positions you're getting, and so do you think that aspect of you being there, being already known on the school board and being an activist and meaning being active in your community, it played a large role in your election?
I would say yes. So in 2021 and in this election, I won by the same numbers, I would say. And I think that has to do with me being me. I've always advocated for the community, whether it be at the school level or at the Board of Supervisors. I've gone to those meetings as well before I got into quote unquote politics. I am an advocate for my community, period, right? Whether it be Aquia Harbor or whether it be Aquia or all of Stafford. I'm privileged to have been a stay-at-home mom for many years. And when my children went to school and I was not having to go to work full-time, I decided to work part-time. And the other half of my time, I advocated for my community, went to meetings, joined every PTO for all 3 schools, and did all the things. I think that absolutely paid off. When it came time for me to run in 2021 and I knocked people's doors, they knew who I was already. And I was shocked and surprised that people knew me. So, of course, people know me even more now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, I think that my trajectory was maybe easier than like someone who just wakes up on a Tuesday in January and say, I'm going to run. But I still had to do a lot of work, though.
Truly.
Yeah.
Well, and I said this to Shannon as well. There's an authenticity to you. And we're hearing more and more that's what people and voters want is somebody being themselves and being real, not being artificial. And I think that you've been very clear who you are. You are what you are. It's not just phony facade. It is very genuine.
Well, thank you. I try to be me because don't nobody else want to be.
I don't have a good comeback for that. So,
You don't have to. It's the truth.
So, and I was just sort of say, before we get into specific issues that are facing Stafford, and this is a new jump, and it's sort of why I thought this would be a good show for January, is because both of you are taking office in January, you're starting these new things. So there's a big learning curve on some of the details of information. You being on the school system, you know a lot about this area and a couple other areas that you've been involved in, Shannon, with different areas that she's been involved in. So do you think that the school, being on the school board, helps you in moving over into the board?
Sure. I think it absolutely
That's
helps
called
me.
a softball, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Do I catch it or do I hit it?
You hit it.
Okay, I'm not sportsy. So yeah, I think that it definitely helps. First of all, the public facing issues that we have, right? Like I'm very nervous on camera. I'm nervous on the dais. I'm nervous talking to people. Lots of intrusive thoughts, holding them back right now. You know what I'm saying? But that helps. Getting to know the players, right? We have even on the school board, you have a relationship with the sheriff. You have relationships with the board of supervisors, with your delegates and your senators and stuff. So that part, absolutely. And also learning how to take the heat from the public, because when I got on the board, remember we were still wearing masks, right? It's early 2022, and it was really bad, and so that prepared me for Buc-ee's and data centers. Okay, so I'm ready to hear all the things about myself.
Yes, and people will be very gracious in letting you know. And as we were talking with Shannon, a large part of the budget, whether it's be construction or whether it be the part of the payroll and the spending, is in the school division. And so having that knowledge as you go into the budget, which is basically one of the first things you're hit with when you get on the board,
Both
it's going to be
boards.
helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that'll be a helping for you to sort of understand where things work and how things don't work.
Oh, I can't wait to understand what the heck is going on with the budget and to understand why when the county makes their budget, the schools are always tacked on as an afterthought, which I always thought doesn't make sense because we're the largest part. And why can't we build our budgets together? So maybe that's something that can never happen. Maybe it doesn't work that way, and that's just my naivete. But I can't wait to figure out if that's an option because I can't imagine it being worse.
No, it is really an interesting element, and often it's when no matter how many times you have meetings with calendars, it never is in sync. That sort of the county, and you know this from the school side. School side's on this track, and the county could be on this track, and then it not necessarily at the same time when they're developing it.
But we can track it together. I mean, we have a 5-year budget that we have been asked to present. Is anyone looking at that, or were they just telling us to present it?
I know I looked at it, but
So anyway, I don't know.
I know
We'll
some
see.
people who did, but yes.
We will see.
So let's look at some of the issues. You mentioned some of them, and I'm not going to quiz you on any of it in the depth of it because there's so much that you get when you're in the public eye, and then there's some that when you're campaigning, and then there'll be all these. Did they do the training fund yet?
No.
No, they get this like 1 day or 2 days of.
Oh, it's
everything
only
fall
3
apart.
hours. It's not even 1 day. It's 3 hours. And I say, way to make Stafford thrive. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have said that. And don't take that out. I don't think that's the right way to go.
It's really interesting. But well, way back in the day, we had offered some suggestions about how to try to do that to make it more meaningful and helpful. So
Yeah.
it all depends on who's the county administrator and how they want to do things. But it is sort of interesting to get try to drink from a fire hose on all these different areas. That's why, and as you know, I recommend doing as many visits to different things as possible because you learn a lot more by being there. And I think you know that from doing the schools. You are always out and about at the schools to see and learn because nobody knows everything. And the only way you get to know stuff is
It's
sort
by
of piecemeal.
doing it.
Right. So anything, I mean, you mentioned data centers. That's a big issue. They theoretically may have solved it, may have. But with the long meeting in October, and then the follow-up
I watched that
long
meeting.
a couple of weeks
I fell
ago.
asleep on that meeting.
Uh, I had a field trip the next day, take my students to Richmond, so I that's why I didn't go in person. But so there's that. I mean, there's the growth. Anything in particular that when you're getting on there, you're going to focus on or think about. Any committees that you're sort of thinking that you want to, or are they going to do committees? You know,
Well, I don't know of all the committees. I do know of some. I know what I'm interested in. I know that there's other people coming on the board and they have interests. So I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna get in where I can fit in. I have time in the day, so I would assume they would enjoy me taking some daytime committees. I know that's hard for people who work full time, although I hope to work full time. But right now, since I'm not, I'm trying to be a team player. I'll do the daytime committees. What is our focus going to be? Well, so my focus is going to be, well, I'd like to figure out what the board wants to do so that we can focus on something together as opposed to running each district like its own little island, because I don't see Stafford progressing forward together. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
We'll have wins in Rock Hill. We'll have a win here in Falmouth or whatever. I want all of Stafford to win. So I'd like to figure out where everyone stands. I know personally I'm very interested in economic development and why we have none. I'd love to figure that part out as soon as possible because we need money. And we need money. Like, I'm tired of being broke, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that is going to be one of my main focuses. I think another focus is going to be, at least for me, transparency. Making it make sense for the public. They need to understand what's going on and they need to understand the why. Sometimes I'm so frustrated watching the meetings and I want to throw a shoe at my TV. Sometimes I do. But when I make a phone call and speak with a sitting board of supervisor, oh, well, that kind of does make sense what you guys did. Why don't they tell us, right? I understand why they don't. There's so much going on and you can't do everything and nobody's perfect, but there's got to be a better way of educating the public. And waiting until the public gets the wrong information or doesn't understand everything and then it gets this fever pitch and then a board of supervisor will then speak out, but they do it out of frustration. It just sets up for more contention and it doesn't need to be.
Right. And that's sort of, if I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's sort of what has happened. That sort of changeover has sort of happened on the school board side, where it was not sort of seen as little fiefdoms and little districts, but sort of trying to make things better, at least with the superintendent,
So-
trying to do that.
I will say this, maybe we'll cut this because this is a little cocky, but promises made, promises kept. That was my point of being on the school board. That was on my website, that we were going to be a more cohesive school board and be positive and get along and communicate with the citizens. And that's what we do now.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. So
Thank
that
you
was
very much.
that was I gave Shannon a softball, so that was my softball.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh, I gave you
caught
two
it.
softballs. Okay.
That's because I'm your favorite. I know you didn't know that, but now you do.
Yeah, there's a really good reason why you and I were not put at the same table at different events, because we would have way too much fun.
I would definitely make you do bad things.
On that happy note. So what so as we're looking at, I mean, we have this whole sort of a mixture in the county. I mean, Aquia, when we redistricted, we put all of Aquia Harbor in the Aquia district. Go figure.
I didn't like that.
And sorry, I was overruled on that one. But it's sort of. But there are different sort of takes on different parts of the county.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Garrisonville and to a certain degree Aquia and to a certain degree Griffiths Whitewater, more urbanized, more high traffic's an issue, roads are an issue, etc. Whereas your Hartwood and your George Washington have far more rural areas
Hmm.
and or more seniors, and so it's a different take down those areas. So
But Aquia has it all because of Brook. Brook is very rural, and the individuals who live in Brook, I look at it like their culture. Their culture is more of the environment and rural, and also leave me alone, stay off my property, and mind your business. Right? That's what I learned door knocking. That's the culture out there. Whereas in other parts of Aquia that may be closer to Aquia Town Center, they talk differently about the environment and differently about Buc-ee's. They actually want them very, very much, or differently about data centers. So it's a very, very small needle to thread trying to make everybody happy or
Yep.
make everyone feel comfortable, because it culturally is very different. But that's almost like every district in Stafford has its own culture.
Right. I mean, it is. It's sort of your Heartwood has down by right on 17.
Mm-hmm.
George Washington has Celebrate, as well as the Chatham area, and then it's for rural areas. So it is. And Falmouth is a little bit more condensed, but it has a large seniors area. And now that Falmouth goes up to the hospital, it's a weird shape. And when we do redistricting, it's not in the efforts in Richmond right now to redistrict locally, but after the 2030 census, we'll probably go to 9 supervisors.
Wow.
Um,
Where they gonna fit?
and we can have a conversation about that, because I love that stuff, and so I've already thought about that. But and with theory, we could have done that this last time, but then the populations would be really small. So the idea was we'll wait till 2030, but we can talk about that when that gets closer. Yeah. Because some areas are booming with population,
Yeah.
as you know, as a school board member.
Yes.
And so, and we have, as far as construction costs, we have our utilities is upgrading water and piping.
Yeah.
First it was in Ferry Farm, now they're doing Chatham, and there's different neighborhoods that have old lead pipes, so that they're changing them out. You have a courthouse that needs to be redone. We've kicked that can down the road, to take Shannon's favorite phrase.
Kicked it a long time.
And you have new schools, and Shannon and I and you know this, that high school 7 should be getting on the CIP at some point in time. Fire and rescue training center. I mean, there's all these things popping up, and it just puts a lot on your plate as a new board member with your 3 hours of training.
I know I probably shouldn't have admitted that. But
No, but
that's crazy.
But that, and as you said, transparency. The public should know that that's what you're getting.
Yeah. And why so late? Like, I start January 1st. I would have loved to have my training last week, or when
do you have it?
The 22nd.
So,
right, and then there's a break. So the school board level. So here's what's awesome about Stafford County Schools. We don't care who you are. If you are running, once your name gets on the ballot, we give you a huge binder. If you want to come pick it up and you can take the binder, it has a wealth of information. So when you're out on the trail, you're not saying the campaign trail, you're not saying stuff that isn't right because, now you know more or you know better, right? I mean, people make mistakes, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then you win your election first week of November. By the end of that week, they're ready to set you up with everything. You've got your dates for training. It's fantastic. And you have a longer runway for before January 1st comes. And I would like to institute some of those things on the county level to make it easier for everybody.
And that's a good point. I mean, I know when I was on, we pushed for that, but then we've had a lot of turnover, which sort of changes things.
Yeah, but that's like how do we as a board push for that and you don't get it? That doesn't make sense.
That's a good question.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And I could have an answer, but I'm not going to. Okay. So you've given us your goals, and sort of what you're sort of looking at as you're moving into this new, exciting, fulfilling, challenging aspect, and it is, quite honestly. I was telling Shannon this, that I sit back and like the fire rescue training school. One of the first things I did when I got appointed to the board was push it back in the budget because it had been pulled out of the school budget because they didn't get all the money from the supervisors. So they're going to punish us by taking that out of the budget. So I pushed to get it back in along with others, and we got it in there. So now every time when I go to the graduation, I just smile because it's just like, yeah. Or when I see a student that at a school who says they're going to go into fire and rescue as a career, and it's because of what the school system has offered, I just sit there and go, yeah. So you'll get those nice feelings. You already get that, no doubt, in the school system.
This is like the best job on the planet. It really is. It's not hard.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you get to still can go and visit. But,
absolutely.
But you also have 8 other million things to go and visit and deal with. So I guess as we go forward, is there, besides the sort of the transparency and sort of getting forth information, is there anything else that you're sort of looking for to try to make a mark on, or you haven't? It's not the 22nd, so you haven't had that wonderful meeting to see. This I can make a mark on this.
Exactly, because it was really hard running to get information as well. So like incredibly hard actually. Like really, really hard. I was really nervous. So I was like, if I can't get information, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm still there where I'm learning every day because more and more board of supervisors are reaching out and giving me information. But yeah, until I've had my onboarding, I don't feel comfortable saying much, but I do feel comfortable saying that Aquia Town Center is a pain in the butt. Okay. And I need to figure that out. I don't understand why it hasn't been figured out in a decade, but it needs to get figured out. And this is the term to do it.
Yeah, great. I know from being on there, I know Cindy Lamb batted her head against that. I know Monica batted her head against that. I mean, I feel for you.
I mean, I would get a charter bus and bring Aquia residents to whoever owns it house. Is that maybe not their house, maybe their office? Like, can we have a meeting? Because we want some things. We want nice things.
Right.
I want nice things.
Well, it's really funny because way back there was a charrette, which is just a fancy term for planning thing. It was way back when Candy Hilliard was on the board, and I had suggested that they look to put a school there because at that point they were busing children from the harbor way over to
Hampton Oaks.
No, over the one that Moncure.
Okay.
And so the attitude was, if we could have something, because as a parent, and I think most school systems like to try to keep people located nearby, where their homes are. And so I was like, hey, why don't we do that there? And the charrette, they were like, oh, well, that's an idea. We could try to do that. And then we had discussions about fire rescue station on that property. And I mean, it's really an interesting pathway that this has taken moving along. So I wish you a great deal of luck with that. That would just be my advice. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And we will have you on again. And I wish you all the best.
Okay. I love the way my voice sounds.
Yes, it does. You can do radio
so
now.
Soft.
Thanks again to our guests, Shannon Fingerholz and Maya Guy, as they begin this new chapter of their lives. We appreciate their service to the community. And that looks like it ought to do it for this edition of Stafford Connect. I want to thank you for joining in with us on this episode. We do appreciate you, and we hope you'll refer us to all your friends. And while we're on the subject of friends, we want to thank our friends at Tilly's Ice Cream for their continuous support of this program. Tilly's is located at the Ferry Farm Shopping Center at 215 Kings Highway. Fall and winter hours for the shop are Wednesday and Thursday, 2 to 8, Saturday, 2 to 9, and Sunday, 2 to 8. So next time you're in our area, stop by and treat yourself. You will be really glad you did. Until our next episode, I'm Tom Cohen, and you're listening to the Stafford Connect podcast. Stafford Connect is a River's Edge Media original podcast. You can listen to the show anywhere you get your podcast, or you can catch the video on your YouTube channel. Stafford Connect, the conversation begins here.